Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading is all about what advice the Fae, the fairy world, has for us, and in a particular context. One of the things I want to explore in this particular reading, because I think that the Fae or the fairy folk are extremely good messengers for this sort of exploration, is what may exist for you in what one might call the liminal spaces. So the liminal spaces are, in a sense, almost the way station, the in-between between other dimensions and our dimension, between our waking life and our sleeping life, between our day-to-day 3D existence and our more meditative 5D existence. And so in many ways, when people talk about as above, so below, all of those sorts of maxims, they're talking about the concept that things exist in a way as a concept, as an idea, as a paradigm in the liminal spaces before they manifest in the material. It's one of the magical engine rooms, if I could use that sort of terminology for manifestation, and what people talk about in that sort of sense. And understanding and connecting to the liminal spaces can give us almost a radar into the energies that are coming through and how best to use them for ourselves. And so the reason I wanted to look at this, it's in many ways going to be possibly one of the more predictive type of readings that I would do, is that I really want to explore what energies could be coming in for you that you are not yet aware of. What projects, what loves, what passions, what creativity, what ideas, whatever it might be, are almost being formed now in the liminal spaces. It's like they're being conceived and just gestating before you would be aware of them in the 3D world, so that you get a little bit of an early distant, not warning necessarily, because hopefully these will be primarily positive things that you'll want to pursue, but so that you can start to see the synchronicities and the signs and so forth when they come through. And I was inspired to do it firstly by getting a couple of decks that have very beautiful imagery around the Fae, including this particular deck where we've got the choices for the reading. And also because I got a very beautiful new tarot deck called the Penumbra Tarot, which is created by Ethany, who's well known to people who watch tarot videos about tarot decks and about tarot reading and so forth. She's the creator of many beautiful decks, and this particular one was deliberately designed to pick up the energies of the liminal space. So I felt like those two things coming, those sorts of tarot deck and the oracles coming into my collection at the same time, had a beautiful sort of connection, a kind of almost sibling energy that would be really good for a reading like this. So this is what it's about. We are going to be trying to ask, firstly by identifying some fairy folk messengers for you, what kind of energies are there in the unmanifest, and what might that look like, what might that potentially create. Then we'll use the tarot to get into a bit more detail about how that impacts your life and how to best use the energy as it comes through. And then we're going to use a few other sort of oracles or energy decks to look at other information for you to also help you when you start to manifest this. So as always, it's really important to choose the right reading, or readings. By all means, go to more than one. There could be more than one thing or suite of things that are occurring in the liminal spaces for you. But to help with that, I've actually chosen 4 cards from one of the decks that we're using, which is the Fairy Forest deck by Lucy Cavendish. In fact, the 2 decks that are using fairy imagery are both by Lucy Cavendish. She does some beautiful work in this space. And they're meant to give you a bit of a sense of at least one of the fairy messengers we're talking about, and there will be a couple of others and so forth as we go through the reading. So it may be something in the imagery that calls to you. It may be the terminology for this particular person from the Fae folk from the fairy realms that calls to you. It could be the imagery, it could be the number, whatever works for you. But for pile number 1, we have the Solitary. For pile number 2, we have Otherworld. For pile number 3, we have the Sigil Keeper. And for pile number 4, we have the Dreamer. So the imagery, as I say, the terminology, any of those things may draw you. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the time stamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So these cards to start the reading are picking up both the Solitary that drew you here, plus a couple of other ambassadors of the Fae folk, so to speak, for the energy and messages that they're bringing, plus also cards that are talking about the feelings that this as yet unformed potential in the liminal space is evoking in you, or which may evoke in you as you start to see it come into being and understand what it could be. Now, the interesting thing for you is there's almost a double message here, I think, and I almost feel like saying, physician, heal thyself. And because I think there is a side of you that is a natural healer, a natural empath, a natural witch, anything like that. The interesting combination of these cards is the solitary card, for instance, is an energy of needing to go within to find your truth. Sometimes when one of two things have happened, sometimes where you have had a life or past lives, for instance, or even this life where you have followed alternative sort of spiritual paths and so forth, you may even have suffered in past lives for following some form of paganism, for instance, in a Christian world or whatever it might be. There is a sense of the otherworldly very deeply enmeshed in you and part of your spiritual path. And part of that is to go within, and I think part of it is about memory. But it also, and this is a specific thing for this card, and it may resonate for some of you, could be indicating someone who's been through a near-death experience and has come back transformed. Because one of the things that's very typical of a near-death experience is after it, you're never really fully the same. There is usually something profound that occurs, some sort of revelation about yourself, the nature of reality, whatever it might be. And so there's something in that. And if you have actually gone through something like that, or if you have very profound lucid dreams, part of what the fairy energy here is saying is to go within, to look to that, because you've got a suspicion that something's coming through from the liminal already, I think. You know. And you also know you need to be prepared, because we have the envious card here. I don't feel that that's you being envious. I think you draw envy to you. I think it may, in fact, even have been partly connected to if you were in some way made to suffer for your abilities and your knowledge and the path that you took. Part of that was about envy in some way. So there's a memory of that. And there's an understanding, a kind of a susurration under the energy here of you knowing that something is coming, a suspicion of destiny, and you're right about that, and that what you're going to bring through is a very healthy and very noble and very caring and leadership sort of energy in what you do, which we'll get to in a minute, but that you are going to draw envy. And I think that part of this period of time, while it is still in the liminal, is for you to really consider yourself and the strengths that you have and the knowledge that you have and what you're going to do to bring things into the world that makes you less able to be assailed by those who are envious. What you're going to bring in, and why I said physician, heal thyself, I think has to do with health in some way. It could be to do with natural remedies with the hedge witch, because this is about things like herb wisdom, secrets, nutrition, all of those sort of things. So there could be something that you will start to create or build that builds upon, herbology or nutrition or health in some way. With passionate there, you certainly very much enjoy doing this. This is a passion for you, if that makes sense. Or it could be the marriage of the two. It may be that what's actually going on is that a great love is coming towards you that is going to bring you out of solitude and into who you are. And you'll be passionate about it, but that you bring to it with the energy of the Fae here, a healthy approach. If you have been in relationships, for instance, where they've been problematic because of envy and competition around you, this is suggesting that the energy that's coming through is going to be more healthy. So it's either going to be in passion in terms of love, or I think it's going to be, and I think it will be for many, more that you are in some sort of way going to create or do something that is about healing others and become a leader in this space. With Atheling here, this is about nobility, grace, gratitude. There is a beautiful energy with this, and it is about coming to terms with who you are, therefore releasing the tension that you've carried, I think, from being a little bit ahead of the pack in terms of your approach to love or health or whatever it might be, and your spiritual connections. You're meant to heal, I think, something. So there is definitely there is a pathway here of healing for you, which starts with you going within and owning who you are and the strength of who you are and the knowledge that you have, so that you then can see whatever you've dealt with, the envy and the competition of others, as being something to be grateful for because you've grown through it. But there's also something that is trying to be born out of this, quite definitely. A new relationship, a new project, a new nutritional program, whatever it might be, whatever relates for you, but it has something to do with emotional or physical health. So that's your first clue from the fairy realm. What we're also going to ask with a few of the cards here, and we'll get to some of the others later, is a little bit more information on what are the creative energies here and the message from the fairy realm that brings some of this together. Okay. Okay, so I think what this is telling us, for most people coming to this reading, there is definitely the possibility of a great love, and if it is, I think it will also have from it children in some way, because there is a sense here of being an inspiration and a leader to others. This is glimpse, indigo, rainbow, crystal, children and beyond. This is a sense of connecting to those who also are on a spiritual path, and I feel who are probably younger than you. Even if you're young, it's almost like younger again than you, or it may be that over your lifetime, you're going to do more and more and more for people in terms of mentoring, coaching, supporting them in some way or another. Some of you may do this through education. It could be education around nutrition, health, healthy relationships, the law of manifestation, gratitude and so forth, the relieving of tension, the connection to the spiritual. There's something in this space for you, and it connects to those younger than you, I think, or those, if you are an indigo child or a rainbow child or a crystal child, if you're in that time frame, then it's your peers. Because part of what you are going to do is help people navigate this, inspire them and navigate. So this really does have a feeling of a creative program, a creative idea, a health program, but it's to help people deal with emotional and also physical issues, I believe. So there's something in that space for you to do, and I do think it's going to help others and people who are younger. And it's your internal navigation, I'm getting, that helps you do that. That's why you picked the solitary. That's why you were drawn to the solitary to start with. You have to know that this approach will work for you. And if it is ultimately going to bring a great love in, and then possibly children and a legacy, and in that sort of sense, generational wisdom that you might be starting to create, and which is now in the liminal space, you first of all have to navigate it and inspire yourself, and then you can inspire other people. Okay, so let's ask Tarot, firstly, for a little bit more information about what this unformed thing looks like, what it may be about, and then we're going to ask how best to use the signs when you start to see them coming through. So firstly, a little bit more information about what is being born for you in the liminal space at this point. Okay, there is definitely two very strong things that are coming through with this. One is children. There is definitely the sense with two aces there with the sort of indigo children and so forth. There is definitely, for some of you, some of you may be in fact about to be parents. This could be picking this up, and so there's something about the energy of the child coming through and what you can teach them and show them and so forth that creates a legacy, that definitely creates a generational legacy, and one that is good, but one that is not conventional, and one that deals with where hope has been stymied in some way. It's moving into something very new. With a double ace, it's incredibly blessed. I see any ace as a blessing. It's always just a potential, but it is a blessing. So you've got two there. So this is a very, very positive thing. And it's interesting that we have 10 of Pentacles and Ace of Pentacles. Pentacles energy, so that's from the Ace to the 10. I think it moves very rapidly because you will have done the work by the time this really starts to be. And there is definitely something about health, nutrition, the body, the earthly things. It could very well make you quite a bit of money. And or, as I say, if there's a relationship connected to it, it's likely to be a long-term relationship and have children, I would say. If you don't want to have children, then your children are going to be maybe a creative project or something like that you do together. And I suspect you will work with young people because you are breaking through that which was not true, particularly spiritually. And that where the more conventional spiritual stuff with the Hierophant, with it reversed, is being released because it almost stood on top of hope. So I do think for many of you, there's a kind of a past life connection to all of this, but you will start to know it when you have a new idea that has a material outcome, or if it is around starting a family, when you or your partner realizes that they are pregnant, because if you are looking to that, there is definitely something like that coming. But if it's not about literally childbirth and a child, then this is about a new idea, and it has a very material, earthy basis to it, and it can be very rapidly built, but not in a conventional way. All right, so let's ask how best to use the energy when you start to see the signs, and even anything that Spirit can tell us that might be signs for you. So one thing to know about this deck is the agents in them are the knights. So we have here the Four of Swords, a reversed Knight of Cups effectively, a reversed Lovers, a High Priestess, and the Seven of Cups. So your first indication, I think, of this will be some form of emotional revelation. If this is about getting into healthier relationship patterns to then bring in something that is more long-standing and could, as I say, start a family or something like that, then the first sign that you're starting to have this energy come towards you is where you are facing up to what emotional patterns are really working for you. And you'll do this largely in solitude. So it feels like if you're in a relationship, then if it's not working for you, you're likely to take time out and make a decision. Is this something that I can repair to allow this new energy in, or do I need to let it go to let that new energy in? If you're on your own, then it is saying that there won't be a new energy until you've gone within and you've connected with your higher knowing, with the High Priestess, and decided what happiness looks like to you. What does emotional fulfillment look like to you? The Seven of Cups is a sort of a strange card, because in some ways it can be the ideal, and it can be many, many emotional options and many things that are wonderful, but it equally can be as confusing as hell, because you're not really sure which is the right thing. This is why I think we have the Seven of Cups here balanced by the Four of Swords, and why you pick the Solitary. If this is about relationship per se, you know that you need to sort this out. You know that you've maybe jumped into relationships because someone has made the offer and so forth, but it hasn't necessarily been clear. You've almost been responsive to other people, reactive to other people, rather than defining what you want. So this is an opportunity to define what you want. If it's not about love per se, and it's about some sort of spiritual or health regime, then there's something around relationships anyway. As I say, either that you are going to mentor and coach others, or it may be that part of your protocol that you're coming up with is to heal emotional hurts where people haven't had the clarity they need, so that this brings clarity. So I do think that you will know emotionally. The interesting thing is that I think you will feel it emotionally, and you will see it as an emotional need to withdraw. That is the thing that is starting to bring this into being. And then you will, in a sense, apprehend it through a philosophy and through what you think could materially grow and last. So if it was that you are going to withdraw to consider your knowing and learning to develop a new nutritional program that will help people to be more in balance with themselves, for instance, then a sense of emotional overwhelm and a need for clarity and separating out is when some of that energy is starting to come through. So if you're not feeling it right now, then you're likely to feel something like that. There will be an emotional trigger that then makes you think about things once you've taken time out. Okay, so if that's what's happening around the liminal spaces with you, let's see what other companions or energy apart from just the Fae are there for you and what messages they have for you. So this is some of these other cards that we had underneath the Solitude card. So firstly, our shadows are beautiful. So this rather lovely, gentle figure is looking, interestingly enough, and there maybe have been a near death. I definitely think that some of you went through a near death or a very profound transformation to get to this point. Contemplating that and seeing a flower growing out of that out of what was a difficult situation comes a healing process. And our shadows are beautiful. So whatever you went through, there is a kind of gratitude you feel for it. And it is this almost emotionally unsettled feeling that creates in you the drive to get the clarity that brings it out. So don't hide from your shadows, and don't feel because people envied you that what you do is different and so therefore is lesser, because that's about the one way that you could get held back in what could come from the liminal for you here now. If you let other people's envy and other people's judgment of you stop you, there's something very beautiful and very sound for you to create out of this. Also have life's a juggle. Stand up and fight. Yeah. So there's definitely, right from the first card, there's definitely a feeling here that the Fae and Spirit and all the various liminal characters here are recognizing that you've been through quite a lot. Whether it's in this life or another life, I think it might be a pattern. And I do think it's because people have been envious of you. They have seen underneath the depth of what you know, you can bring, your feeling, your knowledge, and probably your power. But you've kind of kept that in strict regulation, I think. You kind of kept it away from people and tried to juggle. And you're good at that. Life is a juggle. You're good at negotiating things and all that sort of stuff. But there will become a time when this new idea comes that you need to fight for your idea and your belief, because you are going to draw some envy to you again. Okay. So these two cards are from the Foxfire Oracle, which are based on the mythology of Kitsune, which is the nine-tailed fox, but it also has other characters that are around, including Inara, which is, or Inari, I think, which is the goddess that the Kitsune serves. And also here we have a dragon. There's time to restore. It's the same message again. So the dragon here is saying that rest is fine. You will have a time when you'll need to fight for your vision, but first of all you need to rest and restore. And then it's saying you have threefold protection. So you are, once you have to stand up and fight for it, you will be protected. But you need to prepare first, and you need to understand what it is that you want to give birth to, and that will give you the protection that you need. 3 is a very, very powerful number in the liminal space. It's all the things about, the magic of 3 and things coming 3 times and so forth. To get threefold protection from the goddess here is a sense that what is coming for you is something precious, whether it's a precious child, a precious project, a precious love, and you will be protected. So it's meant to say you're okay. You've juggled all you need to do. You can now fight for what this is as it starts to be born. Okay, so let's also ask for a little bit of astrological energy around this for you, just to get a little bit more of a feeling for what this thing is that's waiting to be born out of the liminal spaces for you. Okay, so firstly, for many of you, this is likely to be about love. At the very least, the desire here is, if it is a project or something like that, it's passionate. You are passionate about it, you have desire for it and so forth. Even though you will have retreated first to do it, it's something that has been a long-standing passion, and there is a lot of creativity in it. But I do think for many of you, this connects to a relationship, and I think it then connects to family. So I really am pulled in 2 directions here. I think for some of you, this is about a relationship. It's the right relationship after you've maybe had people envious and so forth. And it's right not only for you, but it's also right because there is meant to be generations coming from you. You're meant to have a legacy in some way, to have a home, to be able to settle down and have roots in some way. If it is about something, as I say, nutritional, health-wise, and a vocation in some way, then it's very true to who you are, and it allows you maybe to work from home or something like that. So it depends very much on how these energies are operating. What I do want to do is use the Astro Dice for a little bit more information, because what I want to look at is just a little bit more information about the energy around it. So we'll be looking at the house, about the area of life, and we already have the 4th house to tell us the home, the base, and so forth. We'll be looking at the sign for a little bit more about how is it going to manifest, and we'll be looking at the planet for the action that will be associated with it as it comes out of the liminal, and we'll do this twice. So firstly, we have the 10th house. So this does suggest that there is an impact on your vocation in the world. So I think it is saying, yes, there are definitely people who have come here that this is not about a love relationship. It's about a business, a career, about health and all those sort of things. It doesn't mean those of you who are relating to the love are wrong. It's just saying in this collective reading that there is definitely a side of this where it's about creating a business, creating something that is your presence in the world. In terms of the sign, we have Leo, so there we have the fire. It's something where you are very much seen, quite dramatic, quite everybody can see it, everybody charismatic, all of those sorts of energies. And then we have Neptune, and the action is about something spiritual, different, alternative. So it's definitely saying that for some of you, this is about some form of vocation, some form of business, some form of health regime that you could make a career out of. You could be seen in the world, but which has a highly spiritual aspect to it. Okay, let's roll one more time. This time we have the 11th house. So that's about friendships, relationships, networks, and so forth. So if you did resonate to this being about a love relationship, it's likely to come through your friendship circle. But if it is, and we see the envy there, do be careful. Do be careful of frenemies, I'm getting. So there may be a little bit of a warning there. If it's not about a love relationship, but again, it's about something that you want to do to help others, then there's something in social media, social networking, influencer type energy for you. And this is very material with Taurus. So this picks up that sense of the pentacles. It also gives you a little bit of stubbornness, and I think that's necessary. I think you need to be a little bit stubborn about whatever this is. And then you have the energy with Mars to take on the ambition. So if you are looking at this as in both of these as being something that you want to bring out into the world, it's a combination of, yes, this is the right thing for you to do and it's spiritually connected, but you do need to connect with others after you've gone within. And you do need to be very clear and a bit stubborn on what you do and go forward with your ambition. Don't let other people point you in a different direction. If this is about love, then it's picking up, it's coming through your social circle, maybe a birth sign involved in this, or the enjoyment of life, which is what Taurus is all about, and very sort of like strong passion is involved. But it's got something to do with friends, and so it's potentially helpful, but it's also something you need to be careful of around the envy. Okay, so let's ask one other oracle deck for some final messages from the liminal space for you in dealing with making the most of these energies. They're very positive, I think, but I think they're positive because you've done the work. So let's just see what else Spirit wants to close out with for you. You have truth and abundance. Okay. So I think that message is pretty clear. Through truth, your truth, being that bit stubborn, as I said, with the Taurus, like sticking to your truth, sticking to what you know, because you've got the knowledge and you've done what you need to do, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a career, whatever it might be. Your truth is the important thing. Take off the mask. Be who you are. Be prepared to fight if you need to. You can juggle all the different viewpoints and so forth. That leads you to abundance, the 10 of Pentacles. This is definitely a reading for people who are likely to make money, if that's what you want to do. Money out of an idea that is likely to be connected in some way to natural remedies, health, psychological support, emotional support, coaching and mentoring, something in that space. But if it is about relationship, the same thing holds. The truth, being true to who you are, will bring the abundance of the emotional connection that I think then will be long-standing. So I hope that this resonates for you, Pile 1. As I say, this is most likely to be predictive. This is meant to be something you don't yet know, but hopefully it triggers enough about who you are as a person that you could see this as something forming for you. And if so, and you know what it is and you know what you want it to be, you are very much, given your nature, able to help manifest that by really thinking into it and starting to plan now, and even taking some of that time out to the degree that you can to allow this to sort of flower and gestate and form a little bit more rapidly. So I hope that that was helpful for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it, both now and if later you find that you saw exactly what this was and it came into your life in the 3D in say 6 months time. Love to hear about that as well. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these are the other Fae folk that are part of the message to you about what is being created in the liminal space that you don't yet see, but which will come into being and you can then manifest and take advantage of. And I think in your case, one of the reasons why you won't see it yet is that there is almost like a shamanic spiritual progress you need to go through, because it does look like you've been through a lot. With some of the energies around it, the feelings around it, when we've got angry, apathetic and vulnerable, that suggests that you at this point in time, and whatever is being born in the liminal space wants to help you move through and arise from, is something that probably made you feel angry, made you feel apathetic, excuse me, made you feel stuck. It's interesting though, my throat almost closed up there. So I think it may have been also about whether you were able to speak your truth, whether you're in a situation at the moment where you can't necessarily fight back, or you feel stuck, or you feel unheard, or you feel unseen in some way. And so part of this process, it's almost alchemical, like going into the Negredo and burning this stuff out. It's almost going into the underworld to face the shadow and come out. But it's not really your shadow. I think it is what has been done around you. But I think that you need to almost go through this spiritual progress, because ultimately what is being born in you is a new spiritual pathway, and is a new power, and is a new confidence, so that you'll be okay to be vulnerable sometimes. You don't feel like you have to protect yourself, because I think at the moment you feel like you're in an environment or in a relationship or something like that where you feel you have to protect yourself and have your guard up all the time, and where you feel like it's sort of hopeless, like what do I do? How do I do anything? That's when you're primed to go into the other world. That's why you were drawn to this card. This can sometimes even come up when you feel ill, when you feel heartsick, when you feel apathetic, and it's affecting you physically. And some of this, I believe, and what you need to process and face and look at and understand, and the liminal space can help you with that, is what it is that's made you angry. And this is not to say that you're wrong. I suspect, in fact, you're right to be angry. But the thing about anger, if you don't burn it out, is it turns into depression. It turns into apathy. So what the progression of the Fae folk here are saying is that instead of going from anger to apathy to feeling vulnerable, they're saying go to the shadow, go to the depths of it, really look at it, because there something new can be born, something fresh, something new, something spring-like with the Green Witch. That allows you to understand how far you've actually come with the wizard, with your spiritual pathway, and that your spiritual pathway and who you are is valid, and what you want to do is valid. And you are actually not only able to find your own way out of whatever this situation is, but you will probably eventually help others in some way, whether it's as a vocation, as a counsellor, for instance, whether it's almost like being an elder of your community when you're older, obviously, and helping others on that pathway. But you have gone through, you've walked the hard pathway and you've done it. And what is born, what is waiting for you in your liminal space is actually you. Some people going into liminal space, it's, a new project, a new love, but this is you. This is you reclaiming you in some way. All right, so let's have a look what other sort of energy around the nature of this particular journey is, what it is that you are giving birth to, so to speak, in the liminal. So we have her special place, reflections, and rest. So this is definitely saying that to some degree going into the shadow will bring you rest. The reflections will bring you rest, will give you peace from this feeling. I feel like you feel like you're stuck. You're stuck on a treadmill. You're stuck in some situation. You're stuck with recurring problems, whatever it might be. By going within, by really looking at the depths of it, you find your own special place, this place that is safe for you, the place where you can be reborn, the place where your true ability and wisdom can start to flourish and be seen and not be held back by what's going on in the 3D at the moment. And it's a process of rest and reflection. So this is why you can go in there, Pile 2. It's like some people going into the other world or into the underworld or whatever. It would be a scary sort of situation. But in some ways for you, it's far less scary than being stuck in the situation you're in at the moment. If you've come to the right reading, you'll know what I'm talking about here. You'll know that something in your material world has just completely stymied you. And I don't think it's fair. and it's really, really makes you vacillate between anger and depression. And you don't, everywhere you turn, you feel like you can't move. So for you, what have you got to lose in going into the underworld? I guess is what I'm saying. And what this is saying is that the creatures in the liminal space are there waiting for you to help you dissipate the anger and to help you let go of the apathy so that this new thing can be born and show you where your special place is, that you can rest and you can reflect, and that that is a valid thing to do. Okay, so let's have a look at what tarot can tell us. So the first thing I want to do is a line of tarot cards that tells us a little bit more about, I think for you, what is the you that's being born? Because as I say, that's what's going to change in the liminal space. It's a new you. So what does that look like? And then we're going to ask, what signs would you have to show that this is starting to happen? And also so that you can make sure you guide the new you to be the you that you want. So firstly, the you that is being born. So I think it's really interesting that we've got so many torches, which is wands. And to me, this feels like a fiery exercise of burning out, as I say, a bit like the Negredo. So we have the Throne of Torches, which is like the King of Wands. We've got the Ten of Torches, and then we've also got the Agent, which is like the Knight of Torches reversed. So I'm feeling like this process of burning all before you is about coming to your mastery, coming to your understanding that a lot of the pushback that you've got from the world is pushback because of the fact that there is something very strong, passionate, charismatic, dynamic in you, and that you have the energy to keep on, that you can do that, but that the more conventional world is probably the thing that has been slowing you down. So the new you that is being born is far more powerful than the environment that you're in. The environment that you're in feels very conservative, it feels very constrictive, and to be honest, not very fair at all, with justice reversed. And with the Four of Cups, that's why it's got you caught. It's this sort of the lack of justice and the fact that you're always having to fight battles. You don't feel like you're getting forward on any level because you're always fighting battles, is stopping you coming from this point of being a leader. I do think that for some of you, you're caught up in, say, a work environment where there's just so much office politics and rubbish that you can't get to actually achieve what you're trying to achieve. But that is to force you into becoming the King of Wands, really, force you into rebirthing yourself and moving past the environment, which you can do. You can use that fiery energy and do that and show others that it is possible not to be defeated by it. This is what the King of Wands is what you are giving birth to within yourself. You don't have to be a man. It's not about gender. It's about the fully realized leader, the fully realized, passionate, energetic, charismatic person who is true to themselves, and I think who will ultimately fight injustice, because you've suffered it, you've seen it, you've been stuck in an environment around it, whatever it might be. So given that, let's ask what you'll see, which almost feels like, what do you see when you go into the underworld, to be frank, but we'll see what the cards say. What do you see when you really start to know that this new you is being born out of the liminal spaces? So I'm getting something quite specific here. I think one of the first signs, you'll have gone within and you'll have done this, but in some weird way, I think you will have drawn to you somebody who will help you liberate yourself from this environment, to take you to one that is more unusual, more unconventional, more true to who you are, and liberate you from the more power-oriented thing. This definitely feels like you're in a very power political environment, power and politics in your family, power and politics in a relationship, whatever it might be. If you're in a business, trying to run your own business, there's sort of just a lot of regulation and power and red tape and all that kind of thing. But it looks to me as though someone's coming, actually. I think that the sign that it's really starting to be born will be when somebody who is more empathic to your situation and a little bit more unusual, like you, recognises you in some way. And I think this makes sense, because the feeling I get from this is that you will need to do the work, need to go within, and you will be able to create yourself. But to bring that into the 3D with the kind of challenges that you're facing, I feel like you need a champion. And I feel that is when you will know that it's like the liminal, the unmanifest, the divine is sending you a champion at the point where you've gone through enough to release the negative energy so that you can allow yourself to be born. The champion will come. It's a bit like they say spiritually, that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. This is slightly different, but it's the same sort of principle. When you've done this work and when you are ready to really be who you are, there's someone coming, someone who has a very different way of looking at things, and someone who recognizes you need to be freed. With the 8 of Torches reversed, it's like they see that you're stuck and who you could be. So this could be a coach, it could be a mentor, it could be a new boss, it could be a potential collaborator, it could be an investor. Depends on what the situation is. But they see that the environment that you're in is just full of conflict that doesn't need to be there, isn't working because of that, is really power oriented, and they have a different approach, a much more empathic and of the heart approach, which you connect to and they recognize in you. So there's a very specific thing to this reading. If you've come to the right reading, it will resonate. And as I say, you start to do the work now on working out who you really want to be and envisaging that, and clearing out the shadow, clearing out that sort of sense of I feel stuck, I feel resentful or whatever it might be, to allow that in. That brings this energy in. Okay, so let's see what other creatures from the liminal space might have messages or support for you. Firstly, we've got, what did we lose? So I think this is part of the question. There is something about this environment, this relationship, whatever it is that has you stuck, and it could be any of those things, where it almost is a double question. I think this character is asking you 2 different questions. What did you lose already? What has been unfair? What has made you angry? What does that mean to you, and what would it mean to reclaim it? The second side of it is almost like, what do we have to lose? Just a slight twitch on what that particular card says, like that ultimately, if things are so stuck, any way forward is a move forward. So I think it's a double message that it's okay. And these characters in this particular deck are for people who feel lonely or lost. And so it very much fits with you. I feel like this is the sort of energy you will meet when you actually start to explore this. What else do we have? Grow together. A choice to make. So for some of you, this might relate to a relationship. Is it a relationship where you can grow together, where there is harmony? What's the choice around that? If it is one that you could, but it feels stuck, how do you become more who you are so that you can actually make a choice that works for you? Again, what would you lose? What do you have to lose? Then we have hope and to dance with joy. So this is a promise, I think. So this particular deck is called Foxfire, and it is based on Kitsune, the fox with 9 tails, and the goddess that Kitsune serves, Inari. And so we have both the goddess and Kitsune here for you. And Kitsune here is offering you hope. And I think this goes, this is why I feel this is more like, what do you have to lose? You don't really have anything to lose, because you need to get unstuck. And anything that is in your life at the moment that can be moved, shifted and made better, that's fine. If not, you need to move on into the new so that you can have hope again, so that you can dance with joy. So I think that the liminal spaces, the creatures of the liminal spaces are saying to you, do not be afraid. Do not feel that you will be as stuck if you do this. So that, I think, is a very positive message for you. Let's have a look at some astrology energy for you around this thing that's being born. And if you can hear that dog barking, I apologise. I don't know why they're so agitated, the poor thing. So we have Gemini and Sagittarius. Oh, okay. So there could be, you could be a Gemini or a Sagittarius, have it strong in your chart, or people around this in some way may. So that may be what this is talking about. But I actually think that it's telling you part of the pathway. It says Gemini, I think, and then it's Sagittarius, I see. If you see, that's kind of a step. That's a step in a further direction. Gemini, I think, makes me feel at the moment like you are caught between ideas, caught at cross purposes with someone or something or whatever this. It feels like it's overheated in terms of the thinking. But if you move into the freedom energy, the creative energy, the hope energy of Sagittarius, that's when you see. So it's almost like get out of your head, get into your heart, get into your passions, get into your shadow, whatever it is. Don't be afraid of that. I think that one of the things that you have always used to survive in these contested, heated environments is your mind. And I understand that. I'm probably guilty of that myself in some of my career and so forth. But I think this is a very clear thing that Gemini, all you can do is think and go over and over. Sagittarius, which is more about freedom, drama, and being true to who you are and your actual spiritual pathway, is where you actually start to see, which is a more powerful thing. Okay, so we're going to use the Astro Dice, and we're using them in a specific way. So I'll be looking at the house that we get for a bit of an area about where this is occurring in your life. I'll be looking at the sign for the sort of general energy around it, and the planet for the action associated with it. And we'll roll this twice. So firstly, we have the 6th house. So for many of you, this is in your day-to-day workplace, and it doesn't surprise me. It has the feeling of that. It has the feeling of office politics and so forth. In Pisces, the energy around it is all very unclear. Pisces is a lovely sign, very kind, very soft, all of those sort of things, but I don't think that's the energy around you. So I think that Pisces here is picking up what can also be the case, where things are not clear, where there is not enough rules that are appropriate, where people break the rules, where people are deceptive with each other, that kind of energy. So it's something around that, getting it more towards the ideal and less where it is at the moment. And we have Neptune there as well too. So it is definitely saying that you need to be in a workplace that aligns more with your values and your spiritual being, that the action needs to be about the spiritual, the psychic, and so forth. And it needs to be in a more gentle environment than you're in. But while you're stuck in this environment, those two energies together are causing this feeling, because it's like it's like trying to grab quicksand and make it sort of stay put so that you can look at it. It's like trying to catch a falling star. It's not actually possible to do, because it's too amorphous. It's too unclear, it's too overheated, all of those sorts of things. Okay, so let's roll one more time to see what else it could be in your life. So we have the 12th house, which is the spiritual, which is the underworld. So it's definitely saying there's something about the underworld, going within and all that, finding your own power, rebirthing yourself and so forth. Privately, taking your time out to do it. You don't have to do it in front of everybody. In Capricorn, it is about power in the world. Capricorn is about the powers of the world. It's about the material. Again, it could be about work, vocation, that sort of thing. And the Sun, it's your life path. You are meant to be in environments that have conflict, I have to say. And I think you're meant to be the person who brings people together and who works out and negotiates through things and so forth. And that's why you have to move just out of I'm thinking about it, I can hear all the various viewpoints, I can bring that together, because what you're witnessing at the moment in the situation that you're in is nobody's doing that. So I think part of what is going to be birthed in you is that capacity to do it. And if this is in a love relationship, then you need to move to a love relationship that allows you to follow that career path where you are true to yourself and that power is appropriately used. Okay, so let's finish off with a couple more cards from the sort of liminal spiritual space to just bring the energy together for you, pile two. Manifestation and lightning. Wow, okay. So there you are again. Right at the beginning we had the wizard. So there you are. You are meant to be that. You have that sort of magical power. You have that manifestation power. Your spiritual power is not to be underestimated on any level. You may have felt stuck. You may have felt like, how the hell do I get through this? But once you go within and you know who you are and you birth that, you're pretty much unstoppable. You're like lightning. You bring this energy and this understanding through, this sort of clarity. Lightning also, in the way that it's being personified there with the lightning bolt and the sort of angelic figure, and the sort of sense of wisdom is almost Promethean. It's almost Gnostic, the sense of bringing light and knowledge and the capacity to see to the dark places, to the places that are politically difficult, the places that are conflict-based. So it's very much there for you. You're meant to be born out of a kind of period of adversity into being the master manifester and wizard who can actually resolve conflict and so forth. That's what's being born. That's why you're going through this. And once you understand that and see how you can be born out of it, you don't feel as stuck. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2. As I've said at the beginning, anything in the liminal space, you may not yet see it, though I suspect most that have come here will see the environment that you're in. You'll see what's making you feeling angry and frustrated, but you may not yet have seen what role you could have. So this is meant to give you some guidance towards that. I hope that it resonates for you and is helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I'd love to hear about in the comments if you do already know what this is and you can see the pathway. Or at some time later, if you see how this has actually come out of the liminal and started to be in your life, I'd love it if you pop back to let me know. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these 2 other cards are the 2 other Fae folk, along with the Sigil Keeper, that are attendant on what is forming for you in the liminal space. And this is interesting. I think that this is all about bringing in a divine union or a very, very profound relationship, whether it's a love relationship or whether it's just feeling like a soul twin or a soul kin or something like that. That gives you a sense of vitality, energy and truth in who you are, and a happiness, a greater happiness sort of physically and in terms of your well-being overall, but also in how you express yourself, I think. Because what's interesting about this, firstly, is that the Sigil Keeper is all about signs and synchronicities. He's a perfect Fae folk for this sort of reading because it is already tilting its hat towards you to say that you are probably already seeing some of the signs of what this is, or you're feeling the underlying impetus towards it, I think might be more to the point. Because the Sigil Seeker is about understanding all those synchronicities, signs, symbols and so forth, and the messages that they hold. And one of the things that the card talks about is that even how you dress yourself, or the sort of jewelry that you might use, or if you did body art or any of those sort of things, is you already starting to manifest something about what the energy is that's coming from the unmanifest, the liminal for you. It's your own psychic antenna operating. And I think you're already getting a sense that something exciting is coming. Something is waiting to be born, because this sense of looking for the signs and seeing it and living it and displaying it in a way yourself. And if you haven't already done this, if you want to draw something in, think about the colours that you wear. Think about the jewelry that you wear. Whatever it might be, get a tattoo potentially if it is an energy that you want to bring in, because there's something intoxicating. Let's go of anything that was lower vibrations that brings in who you want to be, because here with Salu, this is all about vitality, health and energy, bringing in a sense of happiness and to be powerful, like you can't be stopped in some way. And it's got to do with your soul kin. Recognition, family, kinship, soul relationships, twin flames, whatever it might be. There's a bit of a mystery around it, but that's kind of what's intoxicating about it. You kind of know. I think for some of you, you may have met someone. So this may be very close to manifesting out of the liminal, I think. So you may have met someone and there's a sense of connection and mystery, and you're really just trying to sort it out, and you're feeling a bit intoxicated, but you're also feeling very optimistic about it, and you're trying to work out, are these signs right? For others of you, it might be that, you've moved town and you're looking for the friends who are right for you, or you've started in a job and you're starting to feel like, actually, I might be with my people finally, or you've started a spiritual sort of progress and you found people or whatever. There is definitely, I think that you've already started. I think this is, so far of all the readings, the one where it's closest to come out of the liminal space. But it's all about you recognizing it and seeing that in the mystery of this connection, it's something to do with you, so that what you are creating is your tribe or your divine union or whatever it might be. It's very powerful, very positive, but you're the architect of it, I feel. And like, you could use sigil magic. You're someone who actually can manifest in that sort of way. It's got to do with the way you present yourself is somehow really key to this. And if it's not about a relationship, it's about finding your tribe, it's about finding recognition, it's about being seen in some way for your vitality, your energy, the mystery about you, what is intoxicating and alluring about you. So very powerful, but it starts with you. Okay, so let's see what other energies there are to give a little bit more detail about what is this relationship or this new you or whatever it is that is coming out of the liminal for you. So we have stardust, premonition, galactic communication, beginnings and endings. You know, you're very psychic, you're very dialed in. You already know this on some level. You would be one of those people who did see what was going on in the liminal fairly easily and be able to bring it in and manifest it. Makes me think, actually, I saw an interview, I might have mentioned this in a similar sort of reading before, with Grant Morrison, who is a graphic artist, and he does things like various sort of superhero things, but he also does some very occult based ones, like he did a series called The Invisibles, for instance. And he talks about his art, his comic art, as being like sigils, and how on occasion when he has wanted something, he has put it into his work and has brought it into being. That's the sort of person you are. There is a real connection. This is the Fae folk doubling down, saying, yes, you almost belong in the liminal, actually. Maybe there's a part of you that's at least half Fae or at least half otherworldly in some way. Definitely potentially star seed or something like that. Very, very psychic. Yes, it's about your identity. It absolutely makes sense. And you can have fun with it. You can be intoxicated. You are powerful enough to do this. You're meant to enjoy this. You're meant to make your life an artwork that then brings in the people who can really respond to that and the people who are right for you, and potentially the right love as well. So it's very powerful. So let's have a look with tarot. Firstly, a little bit more detail about what it is that you're creating in the liminal space, what's being gestated for you, and then a little bit of information about how you would know it's happening or how to use those energies. So firstly, just a little bit more detail about what we're looking at here. Okay, so what this is really interesting, we've got 3 twos and then we've got the 8 of Swords and the Devil. What this is saying is that you are creating a greater canvas for you to have choice. And it's going to come through first creatively. That's why you are your own artwork with the two of torches or 2 of wands. Because there's a degree to which making decisions about what you want this to materially look like, whether it's a career or a creative project or whatever, and even who the right person for you is with the 2 of Cups reversed, that follows you first of all defining yourself, making your choices about how you define yourself so that you have that vitality, you have that power. That way you can be more authentic, bringing people in. You are in the process of liberating yourself from restrictive patterns of thought. So it actually looks like many of you may have before tried to fit in with a material sort of choice that other people would approve of, or a relationship, you tried to change yourself for a relationship or whatever. And each time you've done that, you felt really constricted. You felt like you gave away your power to something else. That's why it's not working for you. But if you get to that point of defining yourself first, that sigil magic, as I say, that's what starts to bring in the right energy for you. It releases you. But you will know when you have released yourself from choices that are guided by others and you are defining your own choice. That's the sort of, it is about you defining yourself. So let's see what other information there is around this emerging from the liminal for you. Okay, it's interesting. These 2 cards came up in a similar sort of position, I think in a different row in another reading. So there could be some connection for some of you between 2 readings here. What this is certainly saying to me is there is a journey that is material that is going to occur, and it's going to take you from the blessing of a new way of being, a new way of living, a new way of new tribe to relate to and belong to, a new home to belong to, whatever it might be, through to something that is very long lasting. This process that you're going through to define yourself has a heft to it. It will last for a long time, but it does require you to let go of relationships and patterns that haven't worked and anything that was not emotionally fulfilling. That again, if you were doing what other people wanted, it was not fulfilling you and it was straitjacketing you. You do need to let go of that. And it does look like you'll start to see that you're doing this when it isn't as painful to let that go, when it almost feels as natural as shrugging off a coat and going, well, that doesn't suit me anymore. I want a different colour. And you go with that. And also when you no longer feel hostage to fate in any way. With the Wheel of Fortune reversed, you may have felt that. I think that was much more that you wanted, because you enjoy life and you enjoy people and you want your tribe and you're very, very sort of effervescent sort of personality. You wanted other people to be happy and to enjoy it or whatever. And I think you made too many choices to fit in. Once you start to break away from that and you decide you are actually the person who decides your truth, that's when you can bring in the things that are very materially right for you. And if you are wanting to do this to make money, you know, to create something, to do a business, whatever, you'll move very rapidly once you've really defined who you are. It's not going to take you long to build something. Okay, so let's have a look at what other creatures, fantastical creatures, might be there in the liminal spaces for you and their messages for you. So firstly, the ending that opens the space for the beginning. Yes, there is something you need to end, but I think what you need to end is anything that's defined by other people. Everybody needs to be their own person. I don't want to sort of imply that's not the case, but you more than most, like most of us can fit in with quite a few things, and that's fine, and we have maybe one or two areas in our life that are a bit unique to us, and that's what we sort of like develop or whatever. There's something unique about you, full stop, and that's where it becomes a problem if you don't recognise that and live into that and the magic of that. That's why, and when you do that, you will find that there are others like you. They're all kind of like these marvellous misfits almost, and I say marvellous. It's actually wonderful creative energy. Okay, so let's see what else we've got. Set it free. Yeah, set you free, basically. And trust in science. Okay, so for some of you, there may almost be a pattern that you can follow, whether it's an alchemical sort of science that's sort of more like sigil magic, or whether it is something that you can truly develop that is scientific and so forth, that is very material. But it's different, it's quirky in some way. And maybe it is amongst people who can look at science but from an alternative point of view, that you will find your tribe and or your divine connection. Okay, and we also have Make a Wish and Bringer of Change. So this is from a deck that's connected to Kitsune, the nine-tailed fox of Japanese legend, but it has various different characters in it. And so we have here two companion energies within that world, and we've got a dragon that's saying make a wish. So yeah, wish for yourself, the ending that opens the space for the beginning, and the bringer of change. This will change, but you'll change others with it. You become a bit of an icon, I think. All right, so let's look at some astrology around it for you. That'll be very interesting for someone like you. So we'll first of all look just at some straight astrology energy around what's developing for you in the liminal space. And then we're going to use the Astro Dice for a little bit more specific information. Sixth house routine. Seventh house partners. Okay, what I think is interesting about this, and nothing routine about you, however, there is something almost scientific, structured and so forth about what you will do. What I think it is saying is the sixth house is not just about routine, it's also about our service to others. I think you will be finding your soul tribe, your divine counterpart or whatever, because there is something in what you bring that is unique that will actually help others. It's not a selfish thing. Your impulse towards your true authenticity and what is different about you is not really selfish. I don't think you could help it, to be frank. This is much more about how showing that difference, being the bringer of change, helps others, and is done in partnership and connection with others. And I certainly think it is saying for some of you, this will bring in a soul twin, a divine counterpart, something like that. Okay, so we're also going to use the Astro Dice, and we're going to use it quite specifically. So I'm going to be looking at the house for the area in life that this could be occurring. We're going to be looking at the sign for the energy around it and the planet for the action, and we'll roll the dice twice. So firstly we have the fourth house, which is where you are at home, who you are at home, who you are in and of yourself. I always think the fourth house in some ways, the sign that you have in your fourth house is more indicative of who you really are than your sun sign or your ascendant or anything. So it really just says that this is about the foundations of you, and the foundation of it is you as well. It is about freedom. It is about creativity. It is about the energy of sort of moving forward and being expansive and learning and so forth with Sagittarius. And it is deeply spiritual. So the action is deeply spiritual. This is why there's magic. There's magic to what you do. It's fundamentally to who you are. You need to be free, different, sort of very, very innovative and so forth, and very magical. Okay, one more roll of the dice. Got the 10th house. So this will have something to do with your vocation. That's why we were getting the ace to the 10 of Pentacles. Many of you will make some sort of a business out of this, career out of it, something like that. You'll be known in the world for it in some way. And with Jupiter, that's incredibly expansive. Aquarius, the energy around it is bigger than you, is spiritual, is the new world, it's everything, it's technology, it's science, potentially, any of those sorts of things as a vocation, expanding, wisdom, knowledge, all of those sorts of things. So again, the core of you is you, but it's what you bring that shifts the dial and is the change, so to speak. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to use one other deck for some last messages from the liminal space for you. Sacred wisdom and exploration. So that's pretty easy to read. I think that's basically saying there is sacred wisdom that you will access. That's why this is important. What you get to is important. It is sacred. It's wise. It's a Jupiter energy we were talking about before. But it comes from exploration, exploring who you are, being different, having the endings that you need to bring in the new. Stopping fitting in with others and defining yourself in some way. Explore yourself, and in doing it, and design yourself, and in doing it, you then make the change and you help to explore and design the world as well. So there's something really, really unique about you, something very innovative. I do think it's going to bring you your people. I do think it's going to bring you a lot of attention. I do think it could also bring you a great love. But whatever it is, you must design it. You are the architect of it. You are the magician. So I hope that resonates for you. It may not yet be coming into being. I don't think it's far off though for you. I think of all the readings so far, this is the one that's closest. So I think if it's resonating, you'll know already pretty much what it's likely to be. But regardless of that, if you do want to share about it in the comments, that would be great. And if you find this happens in 3, 6 or 12 months, and you remember this reading, love to hear later on about how it came out of the liminal spaces for you. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So these are the two other Fae folk that are part of the indication of what is being formed in the liminal for you. And then we also have cards to look at some of the emotions that are attending the birth of whatever this energy is for you. And what I feel I'm seeing here actually is the moment before something starts to be brought into being. So I think that there is a first message to you here that you need a period of rest and contemplation to almost put the energy into the liminal space that can then create something. So as the reading goes on, hopefully we will see a bit more about what's going to be created, because I think we're seeing the moment before it. We're seeing with these energies here around feelings where you maybe have felt pressured, been in a judgmental sort of environment, not feeling potentially good enough or not sure how to behave in an environment, being quite overwhelmed by it, pressured. It feels very much like someone in a very high pressure workplace or a very difficult relationship or family dynamics. There's certainly sort of something where you feel, are you up to what's happening? Is it what you should be doing? Is this pressure worth it? And so forth. So to some degree, what comes out of the liminal space needs to help tell you that. And so then we have, in fact, with the Fae folk, a kind of a process for you to prepare for that to happen, I believe. Because you were drawn to the Dreamer card, and that certainly says that you have the capacity to go into the liminal spaces, to meditate, to lucid dream, all of those things, and to pay attention to that. There is a very strong message here that despite whatever you may be feeling about the environment you're in at the moment, you can dream into being what it is that you want. But you need to be clear about what it is that you want. Because with Frigga, there is a readiness and energy. The liminal space is almost waiting with bated breath to start the design work for you. But it needs to almost get the energy, the information about what it is that you want to dream into being to help you with that. And that requires you to take some time, to take some stillness, to pause, to not always be fixing every problem, dealing with every issue, worrying about the next performance review, the next exam result, the next thing that a relationship partner tells you about yourself. It's like stepping away from that so that you can dream it into being. So it's almost as though, even though this is the first card, what this is saying is be ready to create, because the liminal is ready to help you. Pause and give yourself time, rest, get the rest you need, and allow yourself to dream, because then you take the pressure off and you are starting to develop something rather than responding, because this feels like responsive energy and this feels like creation energy. So let's see if that's the case. A little bit more information from some of the other cards that were under the Dreamer card about the detail of what it is that you could be creating in this liminal space. So firstly, we have Beauty's Truth, okay, then Camouflage and Mess, okay. So for some of you, this may be a very tricky relationship that you're in, I think, and you feel like it's a mess, and you're feeling like you have to hide yourself and camouflage yourself. For others, it's a difficult work environment or family environment or something like that. There's something here about your sense of beauty, your sense of self, your sense of lovability though. So I do feel it's primarily in the space of relationships. If it's in the workplace, that judgmental stuff is making you feel there's something about the work that you do where maybe the way that you look or you present yourself is important and you feel like you're not fitting in. So it could be that there's a particular look, or you could work in an industry like fashion industry where that's very important, for instance, or you could be an artist model or something like that. That is a possibility if it's around work. It's appearances are very important around this workplace if it's about work, and yet you are meant to get to the truth of you and the beauty that is you and so forth, so that you can celebrate you rather than always feeling that you don't fit in and that you have to camouflage yourself. And again, it's sort of, this is the moment before it occurs. So hopefully the tarot is going to give us a little bit more of an idea. And this, the really key message here is that it's not going to be possible to see the right thing into the liminal unless you take this message of resting and dreaming it up so that you can bring it in. Certainly you would suggest that you have the power to bring it into being, but you have to take the time out to do it. Not be so busy trying to be what appearances tell you to camouflage what you really feel and just feeling like everything is a mess. But let's get more information from tarot. So let's start first with asking, what is it ideally that you could sort of start to dream into being? If you could take that time out and do that, what is the best way to get towards your beauty's truth, I think, towards what you would call beautiful, what you would call truthful in yourself? Okay, so again, I feel with many of you this is about a love relationship or very close relationships anyway with the Two of Cups. That's not always romantic, but it often is. There's certainly a sense of drama that you need to get over around that. So it feels like it's very responsive. If you are in a relationship at the moment, it feels like you're always jumping to their tune or whatever. And you're doing it to try and keep the harmony there, but it's taking a very strong mental toll on you, and you need to be more independent, whether it's more independent and in a relationship, so rebalancing it, or whether it is being separate from a relationship, you will need to work out for yourself. Because what is meant to be born in this space is the sense of courage in yourself to be truly who you are. With the Throne of Torches, which is like the King of Cups, it is about the concept of really coming into your own power, your own creativity, and again, picking up the sense that you can dream things into being. You have that ability. And the timing is kind of right, because Bridget here is actually about when the timing for sort of fertile birthing of something is coming into being. So there certainly is an opportunity at this, but you do need to cut out the static that's on the wire and take a time out. If it's around work, try and take a holiday so that you can go in and decide what this is and so forth. If it's in a relationship, just try and grab a friend and go to the spa or something for a few days and just say you need time out. You need time out. But if you're with a friend, you need them to know you need time on your own. This is very much you creating who you would stand in your own truth, your own fiery power, but also your own material security in some way. And there's courage required for it. It looks as though you've almost fallen into a situation where you could just keep going and going and going on the treadmill and feel, well, that's what I have to do and that's what success is. And I'll just fit in, and when I don't feel I fit in, I'll camouflage. And, it's all a bit of a mess, but I'm not the only person. We're all in this together. This is really a liberation energy and a sense of independent energy, but it is going to take some courage. Okay, so let's ask what you'll start to see as whatever it is that you could dream into being starts to take form in your mind, so that then you might actually start to see it change the material world. Okay, so these are almost interchangeable with throne and crown in the sense that depending upon, it's not, in this deck, whether it's a male or female figure is not sort of like connected to king or queen. So I think it's good in a way that it's sort of showing this isn't about gender, but it is interesting that you coming into your being may mean that there needs to be some decisions about the powers or those that are directing things at the moment. With both the Crown of Swords and the Crown of Torches reversed, it suggests that there's been some highly critical and power-oriented people around you in a relationship, in your career, whatever it is. And they have kind of left you feeling a bit stuck about a decision, feeling really sort of stuck in the situation. This is why you have to dream it up. This is why it's saying that the liminal can't even start to give you the change you need till you go into your high priestess power, because you have that power. At the moment, you're very much in your mind and in the material powers of the world. You will know that you are ready when you have taken that time out, gone into the mystery of yourself and started to dream it into being. And I don't know that it's going to be that much more specific with this, because I think it's really trying to say to you that you have to determine this, and you have to slow down, and you have to stop dancing to other people's tunes, because they're highly critical and they're not fair, and they probably don't put in anywhere near the effort they expect you to, and all that kind of thing in whatever type of relationship this is. Okay. So let's ask what other advice liminal creatures have for you, given that it's being a little bit tricky here, I have to say. The Fae folk are being a little bit tricky and saying, the ball's in your court. But let's see what else we have. So we've got the littlest blessing. So when this card comes up to me, it suggests that it's in the small things that we start to be able to create what we really want, and we start to be able to see that we can regain something. I think for you, the littlest blessing is taking some time out, like just being able to organise your life to do that is the first step in the right direction. You don't have to change everything tomorrow. You don't have to boil the ocean, as they say, because there's a lot yet to create in the liminal for you. You just need to give yourself license to take the time to start to dream. Okay, got be of service and look to the future. And interestingly enough, I obviously pulled a third card here, even though I hadn't meant to, but we're going to see what that is. Our faithful friend. All right. So I actually think this is giving an interesting message. I think that this is saying this is the environment that you sit in. Normally speaking, when you see be of service, I would think it is sort of, telling us, yes, we need to be of service to others. I actually think you're too much of service to others. That's the problem. You're the faithful friend, the one who's always supporting others, always there for others. But this is saying, look to the future, look to what you want to do. You're so much in the present because you're just kind of like, you're like one of those rats on a turnstile. You're not a rat, but you know what I mean. It's that kind of concept of you just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And I think it's because you always feel you have to be a great friend, a great lover, a great workmate, and you're never looking at what you want in the future. So what you do is you create what everybody else wants rather than what you want. And I think that the liminal creatures here are trying to say this is where you need to be, not here. All right. So let's see what else we have. threshold. Be still a while. Okay, yeah. So this deck is around Kitsune, the nine-tailed fox entity, and his goddess that he serves, Inari. So we have Inari here saying you're on the threshold. You are on the threshold. And once you take, I think that's what it's saying over and over, all you need to do is take the step to give yourself time out to dream something else, and you will be able to bring that energy in and create what it is that you want. But you have to give yourself that time, because the threshold is there, and I almost feel like if you kept going and kept going and kept going, at some point it's almost like the doorway, the portal shuts. There is an opportunity now, Bridget is saying, so don't waste that. Find that way to take some time out. As I say, even if it's only an hour a day where, you know, everybody who's around you has to leave you alone, whatever you can do, find that place, that space to dream. Be still a while. Don't keep running after everything. You don't have to be at everybody's beck and call all the time. All right, let's see some astrology energy around it for you. Part of fortune, increase, and revolution. Yeah. See, the only way is up. Powerful. And look, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in an awful position, but it's just tiring and you're just at everybody's beck and call. But one little step, one little dream, one new idea follows another. We then have that concept of increase. And for some people, it is going to feel like a revolution. For the people who expect you to be there every time you call up, and maybe you've actually put some boundaries around it, you know, maybe they're just going to have to live with it, because you do need to find this and you need to make the revolution within yourself, but you can't even begin to understand what that is. So the liminal can't even begin to draw in the energy for you till you take the time out. Okay, so let's finish up on two last pieces of advice from the otherworldly energies for you. Oh no, before we do that, sorry, I forgot. The other astrological thing that I wanted to do was use the astro dice twice. So it's the house, in this case, is going to be the area in your life this particularly manifests. The sign is going to be the energy, and the planet is the action, and we'll roll twice. So firstly, we have the second house. So yes, what you value, your possessions and so forth. For many of you, this is around your career, your day-to-day work, that kind of thing. But it is also what you value and what you want for yourself, and defining that. And with Leo, the energy is meant to be a little bit more, it's also about me. Leo wants to be the center of attention, and sometimes people need to be, and sometimes it's right to be. I just think that you haven't been doing that. With Jupiter, that's to bring some wisdom to it and to expand and increase your life through being a little bit more clear about what you want and what you value. Okay, one more roll of the dice. And we've got the 12th house, so that's the time out. So the 12th house is the private space, the sort of space for sort of looking into your psychology, dreams, you know, the psychic realms, all of that kind of thing. So this is saying that's really crucial at the moment, that you do need to find private time. That's where, with Aries, you start to work out what your ambition is rather than what everybody else wants. And Venus, you can do it with love. You're not going to be nasty to anybody. You're not going to just throw everybody away. It's you starting to look at you, and it's a bit of self-love. And I think it could also potentially bring in the right love if you don't have that at the moment. Once you've defined what it looks like, I just feel like the message here is that you just run yourself ragged and you haven't even stopped to think about what you want. And then you'll be thinking like, well, why aren't I manifesting what I want? And it's partly because you haven't really defined it. It's all been very reactive. Okay, so as I say, lastly, we're going to look at just a little bit more information from another sort of spiritual deck to bring the energy together for you. Powerful. Sacred Wisdom, that came up for another one. So you might connect to another reading. And energy balance. So definitely there is that sense of bringing your own knowing and bringing your energies into balance. I do think this is saying that you're very powerful at dreaming your own reality into being. And it's almost saying to me that somewhere along the line, whether it was in your childhood or at school, somebody got you to think and believe that we all exist just to serve others and to be a faithful friend, that life is all about service to others, that if we think about ourselves, we're being selfish or whatever. But that's out of balance. That's not right. But because you are so energetically powerful and can dream things into being, if you're constantly putting all that energy towards other people, you're not actually dreaming into being what you want and bringing your life into balance. The wisdom is about the balance and understanding you have an opportunity coming up. The liminal world is opening for you to give them the dream so that then they can start to bring the energies in to make it happen, so that then you can see it in your life. But they can't do it alone. They can't just decide for you. You need to decide. So I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 4. I hope it makes sense and that it's helpful. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it, either now or 3, 6 or 12 months down the track, if you can actually see that something has started to come out and manifest in your life that really related to this and you taking the time out. Love to hear about it then, because as I said at the beginning, this is probably one of the more predictive types of energy readings I've done, but that's up to you, obviously. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.